Something that I say along the way will touch you. I know it. Let's begin that process of crafting a meaningful life.
Here's Mary Crafts.
Welcome, welcome. This morning is a very special day for me, and it is the day that we've decided to move from strictly audio podcast to adding video in, okay? This is very nerve-wracking for me because I'm used to getting up on Monday morning in my sweats, writing my podcast, coming in, giving it, not thinking a word thing about how I look or what I'm saying or just any of that. So it was up extra early this morning to write my podcast and then get ready and sit down. But maybe this is an added feature you will enjoy. It's going to be still the same audio. So if you decide you want to do it just audio, if you want to still do it when you're getting ready in the morning and just listening or driving to work or exercising, hey, it's all good. But if by chance, maybe when you're exercising you can put it on your screen in front of you, and then you can occasionally glance down as I'm laughing or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, Mary meant that to be funny. Okay, got it. And so I'd open to feedback, and you can let me know if this is an added plus or if it's a distraction, because whatever happens, I don't want you to stop listening to me. I don't want you to focus on what I'm wearing any particular day or what my hair looks like, because it changes all the time, as some of you know. I want you to focus on my words. And if that helps, great. And if it doesn't, turn the camera off. This is episode number 225, so it seemed a great episode to start this. And what I wanted to talk about today, it's just me. I don't have a guest. And when I do have a guest, we're still going to be able to do the video portion, which is great. But I wanted to kind of give maybe a recap. I've been posting on my social media so much, and I've been speaking at different places around the state. And at the end of the month, I'm even going out of state to speak on this, about this concept of oneness. And it's become so vitally important to me. It's like my very essence now, that I wanted to explain it to you from beginning to today. Not the end, because there's so much more I know yet to come, but at least from where I was to where I am today, and give you some vision for what this means to me and how I truly believe that it is how we are going to transform this planet. We are living in such tumultuous times. And if ever this was needed, it is now. So since January, this is kind of where this happened to me, the first week of January, in a vision while I was in deep meditation. And I don't want you to think that I'm claiming that some deity came to me. That's not what this was. This wasn't like the heavens parted and an angel came and visited me. It wasn't like that. I was in deep meditation where I had quieted my mind, and I was just listening to what was next for me. And in this vision, I was in a very large, spacious room, and I really couldn't see the top of the ceilings. I just knew that, well, maybe they were there, maybe they weren't, but I couldn't see them. And I was just looking around, observing everything, how white it was. And then I saw this woman walking toward me. And her whiteness and her beauty was really kind of beyond compare. She walked up to me, and I just felt immediately this sense of love and peace. And she smiled down at me. She only asked me a single question. And she asked me, Mary, what is the purpose? What is the reason? What is the mission of humankind? I thought for just a moment, and then she said, what is the dream of humankind? Without any hesitation, immediately I knew. And I repeated back to her, the dream of humankind is oneness. We both smiled at each other and she said, that is right. And then that was the end of it. There was no more vision, no more her, no more continued communication. But it was so powerful that I knew that that was for me and that that's what I would spend the rest of my days doing, creating oneness on this planet. Later, you can imagine how many times I replayed that in my mind and wrote about it and thought about it and asked more questions. And what I have come to realize is the woman I saw was me. She has the answers for me. I have the answers for me. If we truly believe that we lived before and we're going to live again, why isn't it that we would have the answers? All I have to do is quiet my mind and listen, and I can be taught by me. I know it's kind of a strange concept, and it may seem very, anti-deity. It's not at all, because who gave me the opportunity to become a great learner and a great teacher to me, but other wonderful deities? And so that's what's been inside of me since January. And I believe that all of us have access to these kind of things. I'm not unique in this. I'm not some like Moses or something. That's not how it goes. We all have access to this kind of information because it lives inside all of us. I'm just at a different point in my life. When I was little, I tried hard to understand when people would say, there is no end. There is no beginning and there is no end. How can there be no beginning and no end? And I can remember sitting in Methodist church and just sitting there and thinking so hard, well, how can that possibly be? There's no beginning and no end. I mean, surely there must have been a beginning and surely there has to be an end, but then what's after that? And that there's no end to space. It just seems to keep going. My mind could not comprehend that. Even now, my mind struggles to comprehend that. But I had set it as a quest to learn more about this concept of time. But it was so hard to understand. I used to think that, the one thing I think I've always known is that time is not linear. We think of time as linear. Okay, so here's this, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and way over there, that's going to happen over there. But that didn't seem right. It didn't give me that sense of satisfaction, that sense of natural knowing. So for a long time, I began to believe that time was spherical and that we existed within a sphere, and that's how we could travel perhaps across it and understand things that once were, or see things that were coming. Perhaps it was spherical. And I kind of went with that for a long time. And then something inside of me, as I would ponder that in meditation, just did not sit right with me. Then, just like waking up from a dream one morning, I understood how it works for me. This is not me telling you how the universe works. This is how it works for me. That symbol that we had seen so long, that we thought of, when you were going to represent this, the symbol of infinity, what do? You draw a figure 8 that comes back and overlaps itself, just like waking up from a dream. For me, I came to understand that that was how infinity worked, like a sideways figure 8 coming back on itself. And it's how, at times and at moments, if things overlap, you can understand or see things that were before and are yet to come. So if life is not linear and it is like this, the infinity sign with no beginning or no end, I began to ponder on how does that become part then of this mission I have, the dream of humankind of oneness. Why is it the dream of humanity? So the very first thing that happened to me after I received this vision of oneness, or the call to be about oneness, was John and I went dancing at a local nightclub one night. And I've told this story before, but a girl came onto the dance floor and she was a little heavy set and she had a very short skirt on that was a wraparound that kind of very scantily covered her private areas. And I thought to myself, I wonder if she looked in the mirror before she left the house. And then I laughed to myself. And then all of a sudden I just stopped. And I was like, whoa, that is not a thought of oneness. That is a thought of separateness. How could I possibly be one with her if I was judging her, if I was being critical of her? And I realized that when I did that, it had everything to do with me and nothing to do with her. That I was critical of myself, that I was judging myself and always worried about myself and how I looked. Not her, not her. It began to open up my eyes as to the possibilities of what it meant to live in oneness. I no longer could be judgmental. I no longer could think of things in terms of us and them. Because when you talk about, well, they are this way, but us are this way, there creates this huge chasm of separateness between us. And we cannot possibly be one if we keep promoting separateness, us and them. That cannot happen simultaneously. But I knew I had a long road to go. I have had decades and decades of thinking in terms of us and them. It's a difficult journey. It's like climbing a mountain, one step at a time. Sometimes I fall back down and I recognize the fall, and then I can climb back up and think about and use the word we, not us and them, but we. This has transformed my life at my very core. I've been going through so many different things my entire life, thinking that these were all steps in my transformation. I never knew the power that this was going to have. I knew my heart was changing. I knew I was becoming born again, a new way of thinking. So now I ask myself, when I find myself in those critical moments, I ask, how are they like me? And how am I like them? Contention melts away. Being upset with people, almost impossible. I was a little upset with John the other day because he did this thing that I call stepping in front of me. I'm in the middle of doing something and he will step in front of me to do it. I'm like, whoa, I'm capable. I'm enough. Don't step in front of me. Then he said, I'm sorry. Do you know why I do that? And I pondered it for just a minute rather than just saying no. And he said, because I always want to be of service to you. And if I see something you're working on, I want to help. I took a moment to see how he was like me. I like to do the same thing. I like to be of service like that. And sometimes perhaps I jump in front of people. And I was able to smile and say, I understand. I see you. I know you see me. It's going to work. And now he's more aware. Am I stepping on Mary or with Mary? Because let me just say, you don't want to step on Mary. Can I just say how many people have told him that? I'm really a nice person. But if I have to be strong and firm, I also can be that. But 8 weeks after my new understanding of oneness, the invasion began in Ukraine. And it completely just, I felt like a bomb had gone off inside my brain and in my heart in terms of this mission of oneness. This isn't about oneness. And then I saw that Ukrainian old man stand up in front of the tank and put his hands up. He was not going to let Russia come into his country, even if he gave his life. And when they kept edging forward, then he laid down in front of the tank. And they just kept itching forward like, okay, we're going to run over you. We cannot not do this. You know, we will look like weak if we don't run over you. And his friends ran out and grabbed him out of the way. And I thought, oh, you just need more people to stand with you in oneness. You just need more people. And I immediately knew I was just covered in this wave of vibration that I had to go. I had to be there. I had to stand with him. I had to put my hands on the tank next to him. And maybe not quite literally, but I had to do something with them because it wasn't with them. It is with we. I am one with them, and they are one with me. I had to go. I must go. But I've been speaking to groups as a keynote speaker since I was probably 40. I finally start to understand. I used to speak, and I tried to share enough experiences with people so they could see where I was and the process of coming to where I am today. It's kind of what my book that's being published is about. I was filled with fear, and this is the process where I got rid of fear and started to live in love, and that's how you do it. That's what I spoke about. That's what my podcasts have been about. How to do it. How to become what? Like me, rather than like you. When I finally realized this, I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy, Mary. That was part of your learning curve. You got it. You did that for a long time and you learned it really well. But there's something else for you to do right now. And with the concept of oneness, I finally see how flawed that thinking was. But I couldn't see it until I started to heal myself, until I started to move down the path of oneness. Now when I speak, when I do my podcasts, I'm hoping that every single one of them are devoted to this. And that is, anything you see in me, anything you admire in me, is already in you. Or you wouldn't see it in me. So this is not a process of how to become like me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all those years of being that. Not enough. That I had to put that out. But I see it clearly now. What I'm doing now is just awakening myself and awakening to you, because what you see in me is already in you, or you wouldn't see it in me. I would say that's some of the best news you could possibly think of. That anything that you're seeing in me, any thought process I'm having, any progress that I have made down this road is already in you, or you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't be listening. You wouldn't be following me. That's how I know it's in you. So when I tell people this, and I've done it many times now, one-on-one, when they say, wow, Mary, this, and I just finished this big speaking engagement in a room of 500, and They were like, this is so awesome, Mary. Can I hug you? Yes, we will hug. But you're not hugging me. We are holding each other. I don't give hugs anymore. I hold people. I hold people close so they can feel what I feel and they can know it in them. When I tell this to people one-on-one and I'm looking right at them, that the only way they can see it in me is because it lives in them, you should see their eyes the way I see them. There's this moment of a light bulb that comes on, this recognition that she's right. It does live in me. And then we both smile and hold each other again. It's like the most joyous moment in my life to be able to share that with somebody. And depending on the circumstance, and if I sense their readiness, if I have enough time, I go on to tell them the next piece. And this is the one to get ready for, because it's super nice to believe that this concept of oneness, this love, this release of fear is already inside of you. Hold on your breath. But the reverse is also true. Yeah. The reverse is also true, so that what you don't like about me and what you see in me is something that kind of rubs you the wrong way also exists in you, or you wouldn't see it in me. Now, I tell you, I have been working on this personally for now almost 3.5 months now. I've been working on this. And so maybe you think I'm narcissistic. Well, guess what? That's because there's a piece of that in you. Yeah. And everyone has a season to everything. And one of the great gifts of life is to know your season, to know where you are in life. I'm now retired. My children are grown. My grandchildren are now a huge part of my life. John, my mission, serving, lifting women. So many things are a part of my life now that couldn't be when I was in my 30s, 40s, and 50s, because I was raising a family. I had a career. I was working to support them. I was trying to be involved in community work, but I didn't always have time. It was a struggle just to keep my nose above that water line so that I wasn't sinking and drowning. Forgive yourself. Be kind to yourself. Know your season. And when you know your season, you can be patient. But when it is your season, then grab hold. Embrace life. Embrace what's waiting out there for you. When you love yourself enough, you can give yourself the greatest gift of time. And I haven't always loved myself to give myself that gift. I used to tell myself I didn't have time to exercise or work out. I didn't have time to eat right. I was too busy. I just had to grab whatever was laying on the counter at a catering business, which was always carbs and calories, okay? The double C's. And that wasn't the case, but I told myself I didn't have that gift of time to give me. So the sooner you learn that, the sooner you get to start down a new path of understanding you. And I'm learning and evolving and understanding more every single day now. Every single day of my life, it's like I wake up from a dream and I'm like, so that's how that works. It's not a special gift that I have. It's just that I have given myself the time and the desire to understand more. I'm just giving myself more time. So start with just a positive affirmation. I am is how most positive affirmations start. I am. Maybe you can start by just putting that on your bathroom mirror in the morning. I am one. I am one with me. I am one with the universe. I am one with my family. Start there. Begin the journey of oneness. It's inside of you. It's just waiting to come out, just so you know, because it came with you here. And it's going to go with you when you leave here. After returning home, I was asked a lot to speak on radio, on TV, to do speaking engagements. And I had an opportunity to talk a lot about kind of my experience there and how it related to oneness. Oftentimes when I got to the part about oneness, though, they would cut me off. And now we're on to the news. So I'm like, okay, the world's not ready for that yet in entirety, but in little bits of just me doing my very best every day. That's all I can bring, my very best every day, and help others to bring their very best every single day. I was on the way to one of these TV interviews at KSL, and as I was driving there, I heard this program that's on the air once a month, and it's called "Let Me Speak to the Governor." And Governor Cox was on, and there was a woman who you call in and ask questions, and there was a woman who called in and asked a question of Governor Cox. Now, keep in mind, I'm on my way to the studio, to this very studio, to talk about oneness. And she asked the question, Governor, I want to know, why are you letting all those Afghan refugees into Utah? Because you're taking away our housing. Housing is short here, and you're giving it to them. And so why are you letting them in here? My heart was broken. Us and them? You're taking it away from us and giving it to them? I began to feel the anger stir up inside of me. I just was in a country where they have nothing. And their neighboring countries of Moldova and Romania were opening up their homes who have nothing and feeding them their last bits of bread and broth. And you're worried about all that we have in this United States, about sharing something like that? I just didn't even know how I was going to go on the air with this, like, just churning inside of me. And I was so frustrated with, once again, us and them. Don't they understand? Don't they see? But by the time I got to the studio, and then it's continued since then, I began to see that my eyes were opened again. And I had fallen down that mountain a bit, but I'm climbing back up. I began to see how I was just like them, and their thoughts were in me. I was critical of them. I was judging them. They called in expressing such things like that. Don't let those refugees in. I was appalled. That's the very thing I'm trying to lift up. I realized how much I was like that woman. I've known fear. I've known scarcity. I've known that feeling of not having enough. I know that fear of clutching on to what's mine and not wanting to share it because who knows if any more is ever coming. That piece of her also lives in me. I've grown past it sometimes, but that was a clear example to me of I have so much farther to go. My journey is just beginning. I moved to empathy with her. Not compassion, because for me, compassion is quite different. Compassion is when you see someone who's hurting and you recognize that they're hurting. Empathy is when you feel what they're feeling because you've known it in you. Knowing what I disliked in her lived in me. And so I could move to empathy for her. I could move to this place of like, oh, I understand what you're afraid of. I understand what you're scared of. Let's talk about it. That's a whole different place than being so appalled with her. Oh, forgive me. I'm learning. I'm trying. But I'm just being naked with how things are with me. I lived in that space for decades of not being enough or having enough. When I'm not enough, it's impossible to believe that there's ever enough for anyone or anything. Scarcity versus abundance. That's part of oneness, of believing that there is enough for all. It's part of the great being enough yourself. You may have recalled me giving the story of the sandbox. And I love this story, and I told it for years and years. So you probably heard it from me at some point. But I always pictured myself in a sandbox on a beach, and there was a person next to me who had a sandbox. And they were getting low on sand. So I was like, oh my gosh, let me give you some of mine. I got so much. And so I'm just over there dipping it back and forth, giving them more of my sand. And then all of a sudden, I could see that my sand was getting low. And I had been sharing too much. So I quickly grabbed some of theirs back and put it back into my sandbox because I don't want to run out and there's only a limited amount. And so there, you just have to live with that amount. And then I would teach people, but I just forgot to look up. Look up. And when I looked up, I looked around and realized that my sandbox was on a beach. And there was sand as far as you could see. And you didn't have to worry about having enough. Now, I love that analogy between scarcity and abundance, but I've taken it a little farther right now. Get rid of the box. Get rid of the sandbox. We don't have to live in a box where there's finite anything. Take away the sandbox and just live on the beach with infinite amount of love, an infinite amount of sand, an infinite amount of resources where there is always enough. Because why? I am enough. I see you and you see me. On this tiny platform that we call a podcast, we can be naked. I can show you all the foibles inside of me, all the things I've been through, all the things I'm still growing through. This thing with KSL was just 2 weeks ago. You can see me and I can see you. And we can see that both of us are enough. And both of us want to be connected and one. And so we are. It seems like maybe I should change my podcast title from crafting a meaningful life to crafting a life of oneness. I don't know if I'll do that or not, but really, truly, my mission has changed. It's no longer about crafting a meaningful life for me. It's about crafting a meaningful life for all of us, for oneness, you and me together. Step by step, hand in hand, in oneness. And so it is. Until next time, thanks for being with me. I'm Mary Crafts, and this is how we do it.